Get this, he's won 3 elections in the last 4 years. I'm talking about Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, proving no matter what the mainstream media might say, what the polls reveal, voters will always get the final say. His opposition spent more than $18 million campaigning against him, and he still lost, and he got 53% of the vote in winning. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker joins us right now. Governor, why were the polls so wrong going into the final day?
Well, I think in the end they didn't realize that voters knew the state was heading in the right direction, and once they went to the polls, they voted that way. They didn't tell people in the polling in advance, but they knew it was better because it is better, and they knew we had a plan to make it better, and thank God they showed up in a good response.
How true was the fact that there might have been friction between you and Governor Christie because maybe he wasn't giving you enough attention, focusing too much on Florida as head of the National Governors Association?
No, in the end, Chris and I are good friends. He came in a week out, campaigned with me. The RGA played strong in my race. The difference was there's just a lot more money than anybody ever expected from the unions, the big government union bosses. They came in, they sent in their surrogates, they sent in the president, the former President Clinton was in, they sent in Elizabeth Warren, and they sent in 3 of their national leaders and spent tens of millions of dollars. But the RGA played a strong role, just like they did in Michigan and early on in Ohio, and certainly in places like Florida. That was part of the key to success. But it was those big government unions that played much bigger than we expected. They made me their #1 target.
When you look at the Hispanic vote in Texas, that got the governorship for the Republicans. When you look at the Hispanic vote in other places, like, for example, Colorado, that got the vote for Republicans. Now, in your state, the story was the youth vote. You were even in the youth vote, and then you went ahead and got independents. What was your strategy there?
Well, I think the youth vote, 18 to 24, I'm the first governor ever who's done a 2-year tuition freeze at our state university system. I think that helped. I think the other big difference was my opponent, just like some of the other folks you hear out of Washington, kind of embraced this old, tired, top-down approach that the government knows best. We came out hard to younger voters, millennials, and said, not just college students, but millennials, and said, hey, we want the new, exciting, build the economies from the ground up approach. I think that resonated very well. And with independents, I think in the end they could see in their own lives, in their own households, in their own workplaces that life was better than it was 4 years ago. Our reforms work. Good, common sense, conservative reforms work.
Governor, one of the architects of Obamacare, Jonathan Gruber, caught on tape at the University of Pennsylvania saying the whole Obamacare situation was a big head fake. They were not transparent. In fact, the quote is, the lack of transparency was a huge political advantage, and basically call it the stupidity of the American voter. Your reaction, because you never bought into it and you never took the subsidies to help set up these exchanges.
No, we thought it was a big mistake. The Affordable Care Act is anything but affordable. It's a huge mistake. It's not living up to its name. It's a major disappointment. And I think in the end, it's one of the things that I hope the new senators, the new majority of the United States Senate, as well as the new added majorities in the House, will push back on, if not over the next 2 years, at least set the table for the next president, because we need to repeal that and replace it with something that's not driven by the government, but instead is driven by patients.
Right, and Governor, right now there's no secret. You've said you're openly looking at running for president. You also know it's a battle to set up the best staff or the best strategists. When will you make your decision, and when will you announce it?
Well, from my standpoint, I got to be focused on getting a budget together, getting our legislative agenda together. But I clearly, not only do I care about this great state, I care about this country. What worries me the most is I look at I think the biggest loser a week ago was Hillary Clinton. She embodies Washington. She embodies that old, tired, top-down approach from the government. I think in the states, as governors, we offer a much better alternative, and I think there's a number of us who would be good prospects out there.
Does the fact that a poll came out when asked, would Governor Scott Walker make a good president, and you only getting 42% of the vote saying yes and 55% say no, does that dissuade you from jumping in?
No, I mean, in the end, any poll right now is ridiculous. You look over the past 4 or 5 elections, people who poll high at the beginning are not the people who end up being the nominees. So what really matters is a ground game and a clear message. And I think the way we win as Republicans 2 years from now is if the House and the Senate start out with a big, bold agenda. It's what I wrote about yesterday in Politico. And then we have a nominee who's really willing to take on the Washington power structure. And I think that's why a governor is your best prospect.
Well, you got to explain it to your family if you do run, how you're going to go for 4 elections in 5 years. They're going to need some explaining. Governor Scott Walker, congratulations on your win. You defy the critics and the polls, and you're victorious again with another 4 years and possibly running for president. Governor Walker, thanks so much.
Thank you, and thanks to all of our veterans on Veterans Day.
Absolutely, an important point.